what's up? My name's Emily. I make writing and bookish content here on booktube, and welcome back to my channel. Just want to say, when you're part of an online book community like booktube or booktok, it is hard to stay engaged in it if you are not actively experiencing and reading the same books as everybody else. I feel like if you need the permission from anyone, I'm going to give it to you. You do not need to read the same books as everybody else. Like, I know that wanting to seem relevant or like you want to stay with the times and you want to talk about what everyone else is talking about, I know that it is very tempting to just read books that everyone else is reading and recommending. But I promise you, you don't have to do that. I think booktok and booktube have done some amazing things for the bookish community. It has brought a sense of connection and community to a very solitary hobby. I mean, when you're reading, oftentimes, unless you're like reading in public or something, or like in a group with friends, you're reading alone. You are reading in your room, in your house, and it's all happening in your head. And so having such an active online community has really brought a sense of togetherness to a hobby that otherwise would be very alone. It has brought a new sense of life to the publishing industry, and it has made so many books popular years after they've been published, including books by self-published authors. Also, it's just so much fun to engage with an online community and to like make friends with other people who love books as much as I do, and to talk about books that we both love. And it's really, really fun. It really is. But there is one thing about it that is kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know if that's the right term. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but that's what I'm using right now because that's the only thing that comes to mind. And it's just like, have you ever noticed when you're like scrolling through TikTok or YouTube or whatever, you see the same like 5, 10, 15 books over and over and over again? If I see one more video that makes me stare at the blank pages of a book, waiting for me to review the cover, and it's just another Colleen Hoover book, like, I'm gonna lose it. It just seems like a lot of the time, everyone is reading the same thing. We're all going through the same trend cycle. Everyone wants to read the new big book. Everyone wants to read the book that everybody's talking about. And can we just talk about how I vividly remember walking into any bookstore for like 6 months, and there was a dedicated Colleen Hoover section of every book that woman has ever written in her life. And it's because that for a long time was what everyone was reading. That is what everyone wanted to buy. We still, to this day, see shelves at every bookstore, and it's like, read the hot TikTok sensations, read the books that booktok is talking about. And it's, again, the same 5, 10, 15 books that I see thrown at my face every video I watch cycling through booktok. And the thing is, when everyone is talking about the same books over and over and over again and you haven't read them, you kind of get this like FOMO, and like you feel like you're missing out on something that everyone seems so hyped up about, and you kind of get this sense of like, I don't know, being an outsider for like just a little bit. Like, you're watching all this content people talking about and sharing the experiences of reading this book, and you feel like you're the only person who hasn't read it, and that maybe you don't belong in the community, or that like you don't love books as much as everyone else does because you haven't read these 10 books that came out last week that somehow everyone has their hands on and that everyone has already finished. You know, if you're not a very fast reader and you're still playing catch up because you want to read all of the books, and yet everyone seems to be just like zooming through all of them and you just can't keep up. Like, you will never keep up with the trend cycle. And that is kind of on purpose because they want to be able to influence you into the next thing. They want to be able to be like, okay, now that you've finally caught up on this other trend that is now finished, here's a new thing that you should buy, because you should just keep buying and buying and buying. Because at the end of the day, reading is still a commodity. Books are still something that you are purchasing from a company, unless you're buying indie and then you're still potentially buying it through Amazon, but like you're supporting the author more directly. But when you're buying books from a bookstore, like, you are still supporting a big publishing house, a big company, and they want you to keep buying new things, knowing that maybe you will never end up reading it for one reason or another. And so right now, I kind of get this FOMO about Fourth Wings because everyone is talking about it. And I am like, 90% sure that if I read it, it's probably going to sit around 3.5, 4 stars for me. And yet I still want to read it because everyone is just talking and hyping up this book so much. And it has this unintended effect when everyone is talking about the same thing. It has this effect where it makes you want to read it, even if it's not something you think you'd enjoy. And I feel like that has happened time and time again. How many people read ACOTAR because everyone was talking about it, saying it was the best book series ever, best thing in the world, and then so many people were like, this is mid. You know, like that is just the way that it goes. And it happens all the time. I feel like the only person who has truly been hyped up that I bought it and was not let down even slightly is R.F. Kuang. That is the only author so far that I can think of off the top of my head that was hyped up to me to like the ultimate degree, and I read her books and it lived up to what I thought it was going to be. That is why like publishing houses, I think, use BookTok and BookTube to market their books. They send out ARCs to these big creators and they gift free books to influencers because they know that if this is the next big book that they're going to talk about, like it'll be all over BookTok and everyone is going to have FOMO. And even if you never end up reading the book or not enjoying the book, you're still going to buy it so that you can post it on your Instagram, so that you can post videos about it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm reading this new book, the new Allie Hazelwood book, or, you know, whatever. People are going to haul it because if people see that book in the thumbnail of the YouTube video, they're going to click on it so that they can be like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to read this book. I do it. Like, I click on videos that have books that I've been wanting to read so that I can tell that person that I also want to read that book because I want to know if it's any good. And because everyone has an opinion on it, like those videos are going to potentially do a lot better. So if you're someone who wants to be a creator and wants to like get a lot of views on your videos, you're going to use books like that because that's what everyone is actively engaging in as a community. They're going to see that book and people are going to comment on it because either they want to read it or they have read it, or they're going to say it's overhyped or they're going to say it's underhyped. Like it's just what's popular. It's what everyone wants to talk about. I mean, how many people in the last couple months did you see post about Happy Place by Emily Henry? I love the cover. I think it's so beautiful. I love all of the covers of her books. I love the colors. I have yet to read one of her books, but guess what? I just picked one up from the store because everyone keeps talking about how good they are. And so I bought one used because I'm like, I need to see what everybody's talking about. Like, I'm also part of it, you know, like I'm not saying this as someone who isn't actively engaging in this. Like I am also like affected by it. Like you see these books everywhere, and just because you're exposed to it constantly, you're like, wow, I should buy that. I should go out and take a chance because everyone seems to love it. And if everyone else loves it, I'll love it too, right? It's like we're living in an advertisement. That's what it feels like sometimes. Everyone is advertising and marketing something. Everyone is selling something, even if it's unintended. Now, is this like inherently bad, like everyone talking about the same 10, 15 books over and over again? No, of course not. People a lot of the time are just sharing books that they love. They're talking about them, and like that is literally what this is all for. And making active trending content like that keeps you relevant. It also helps create a sense of camaraderie in the bookish community because everyone's reading the same thing, everyone's talking about the same thing. If a book has major glaring issues, everyone will be talking about the major issues that this book has. But I think it's also important to emphasize that like you don't just have to read the books that everyone else is reading. In fact, I'm here to remind you of the fact that you have permission to enjoy something that no one else is talking about. You can read something that no one else has told you to read. It can be so fun to be on the hype train and talk about the book that everyone else is talking about, but sometimes I just crave something different. I crave a book that no one has told me to read. You know, a book that I didn't see on TikTok first, a book that I just picked up in the store and went, that actually sounds really interesting. And just picked it up because I thought it sounded interesting or I really liked the cover. Sometimes I want to support an author that I've never heard of or go out of my way to support an indie author because those kinds of people don't get the same recognition as the big books that are coming from huge printing houses and getting hyped all over BookTok. And I feel like sometimes when I get caught up in reading what everyone else is reading and what is popular, I forget to read what I really love. Because I get so caught up in reading what everyone else is reading, and sometimes that does align with books that I really enjoy, but sometimes it really doesn't, and I end up just reading books that I don't really enjoy. Instead of going for a book that I've waited forever to read because it's just been sitting on my shelf waiting for me, it gets pushed back by reading what's relevant and popular because that's what everyone else wants to see and talk about. And that's kind of like when I say that BookTok doesn't give good book recommendations, it's that it doesn't always give good book recommendations for me. And then I end up choosing to read BookTok books over the books that I think I would truly enjoy because it's just what I've been hearing. And there's nothing wrong with reading what everyone else is reading and enjoying, especially if you yourself are reading the book and loving it. For me, I hate this internalized pressure that I have to read what everyone else is enjoying so that I can comment on it or make videos about it and seem more relevant. And sometimes those books just don't interest me as much. And honestly, reading what everyone else is reading, I think makes me a little bit less interesting. Sometimes those are the videos and books that really draw interest to your channel or to the videos that you create. And I want to read because I love to read. And I want to read books that I love instead of reading a book that someone else says is more worthy of my time and energy. So this is me giving you permission to go out and read the books that you love, not the books that someone else is telling you to love. Share the books that you found interesting and different that you maybe have never seen promoted before. I think it'll help diversify the amount of recommendations that we're getting across the board. For me, I've been reading a ton of Japanese literature, and there is some that has gotten like really, really popular, like Convenience Store Woman, which I did love, and Earthlings, which grossed me out, but I also loved. I've been reading a lot of Japanese literature about cats, actually. The Traveling Cat Chronicles, She and Her Cat, and Hugo just yesterday bought me this new book called The Cat That Saved Books, and I cannot wait to read it. It's another Japanese literature book about cats. I don't know what it is about cats and Japanese literature, but they seem to go hand in hand, and I'm living for it. I've also been reading tons of Star Wars books, and I hope to keep reading more and more of those. So, that's just a few examples. I want to read books that I really enjoy, that bring me happiness instead of just trying to stay as on trend as I can. And anyway, I don't know where the rest of this video is going because I feel like I'm just repeating myself now, but I wanted to start this conversation and see if anyone else felt the same way that I did about the way that book trends go and the way that we treat book trends and the way that the cycle has been going, if anyone else is feeling similarly or feeling pressured in the same way that I am. So if you are feeling similarly or have felt the way that I felt, please be sure to let me know in the comments down below because I don't even know anymore. So yeah, I don't know. I might have to leave it there because I just don't know. Those are the feelings that I have right now. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.